On this episode,
This has been going on forever. I mean, there are literally documented stories in biblical texts that talk about possessions.
These are organic materials that were once living, and they had a life force or an energy in them themselves.
This isn't something that Hollywood necessarily made up.
Does that materially change your life once you've experienced something like that in detail?
Raise your glass to mysteries, cocktails and conspiracies. Dive into these histories, cocktails and conspiracies. Raise your glass to mysteries, cocktails and conspiracies. Uncover those anomalies, cocktails and conspiracies.
tired of dragging around that clunky old grill to every tailgate or campsite? Hitchfire has your back. Literally. Their rugged hitch-mounted grills are built for adventure. Just swing it out, fire it up, and get cooking anywhere your vehicle takes you. And I've got a code to hook you up. Use SFXDOTCOM at checkout to save 10% off your entire order. Head to hitchfire.com and upgrade your outdoor game. Hitchfire, built to burn wherever you roam.
I hear a ghost right now.
What?
I hear a ghost in your house right now, banging around.
Thank you very much. As we're live on all these different platforms, I can't even kick it off with a proper introduction. This is staying in the final edit, by the way. This is staying in it to understand, so you all can get what I have to deal with every single time I try to get prepped for a show. And this idiot's got to throw out stupid comments about absolutely nothing just as I'm about to kick off an intro. As I was saying, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be, whether you are tuning in across the nation or around the world. My name is Shane Skwarek, here with the Phantom of Paranormal Pontification, Mr. Philipps. We are back once again for another episode of Cocktails and Conspiracies. We are your conspiracy realists, and Mr. Philipps, I got through it anyway.
You did. He's ready to rock. He's ready to roll. And we're off to the races, baby.
So tonight we were actually just going to do one recording, and we did that earlier, and then we were going to do our normal pubbing afterwards, just kind of decompress, do a little gaming, get that out of our system. We're down to 1 day a week that we're going to do that. And of course, the servers are down, and that'll be another episode for another day as to why they decide to alienate their largest audience by going down in the middle of the night on Wednesday. And so we decided, you know what? We're going to knock off our next Halloween episode right now. So here we are.
Here we go.
Mr. Philipps,
We're going to talk about some
here we
ghosts. We're going to talk about some
We're back
hauntings. My favorite topic on the face of the planet. Probably even more so than UFOs. I think I love the paranormal more than I love UFOs. And that is saying something, because we all know I love my UFOs.
You do love your UFOs, but I will say I've always put you as more of a ghost guy than I have a UFO guy anyway. In fact, so much so that when we first started on a lot of the UFO topics, I was a little reluctant to bring some of them up because I actually thought that you didn't care about it because you're so into the paranormal. Like, he's just not really a UFO. I knew you liked him, but I just didn't think you liked them enough to get into it. But when we get to these topics, I know you're all in.
All in, baby. All in. You know what, dude? I think it kind of stems from, like, childhood. And, like, we grew up in the heyday of Goosebumps, right? Like, I read every Goosebumps book that had ever been made, at least up until the mid-90s. I'm sure they made new ones. But, like, I loved that. Every time you get the Scholastic magazine, right? You'd go, like, the book, not the book fair, but, like, you'd order the books. You'd have to, like, give the money to the teacher. They'd place the order. Book fairs as well, right? And then you'd get your book like 6 months later. I always look for the spooky ones, the ghost stories. I've always been infatuated with it. And I think it kind of stems from me being a kid and hearing ghost stories. And just, A, being frightened, B, just being perplexed, and just mystified by it. Like, holy crap, could this be real? You know, just that thought, could this actually be real? Could they exist? And I think they do.
Okay.
I think they do.
What about, you talked about books. I was a big Goosebumps fan myself, love them. My daughter is now getting into them too, so it's kind of cool to see her starting to collect them and stuff, telling me about some of the stories. She chalked it up as her first horror movie she ever watched was Goosebumps 1 and
The
then
Goosebumps.
Goosebumps 2.
That's
I'm not
fine.
going to call it necessarily a horror movie, but you get the idea. But this was one of my favorite series, or I guess like collection of books. See if you recognize this cover at all here. Is
Hell
that not
yeah,
a
I had myself
classic?
muted. That is an absolute classic, dude. Scary stories to tell in the dark. I don't remember a single line of it, but I could tell you I probably read it 5 or 6 times.
I've read
Loved
it
that
a hell
book.
of a lot more than that.
Loved
Scary
that book.
stories to tell in the dark. What I loved about it really was the idea of the folklore, right? And you alluded to it before, where you said you believe them, you think they're real, you think they're here. And when I was younger, especially, and I see the word folklore, I immediately think true story, or at least a story that's derived from something that's true. It's something we talk about in every single episode too. Is stories don't just get pulled out of thin air. And I do believe they're exaggerated and manipulated for sure, but there's usually a level of truth, I think, that's involved in them to some degree. Um, that's what attracts me to something like this, is like these are stories that are told on and on, maybe embellished a little bit for the book, but as a kid you don't realize that. And so the idea, the concept that there's truth with behind these stories, always gave me a little extra chill there.
Hell yeah, dude. I mean, we for those listening and watching around the world, we have our own horror chat where we discuss
Oh
horror
yeah.
movies, and lately we've been talking a lot about kind of paranormal. At least some of us have been talking about new paranormal or ghost horror that's kind of based in reality, and that's the stuff that I love. Actually, I think I told you the other night I watched the Blackwell Ghost. Dude, did
Yeah.
they fool me? Dude, did they fool me? I really
I've not
thought for
watched
like
that one yet.
85% of that film, I really thought it was a real documentary. They did such a good job. But I was hooked because I love things that are
Right.
based in reality. I love stories that are based in truth. That's why
Was it Blackwell Ghost? Blackwell
it's
Ghost?
called the Blackwell Ghost. It was on
Okay.
like Amazon Prime. Um, I
There's
got
like
very
there's
disappointed.
8 of them.
Right, I was watching the first
9
one.
of them.
Yeah, apparently there's a lot of them. Listen, I'll go as far to say that I didn't even finish watching the first one because I got so aggravated, kind of with myself, that they fooled me
Yeah,
so
yeah.
well that I just stopped watching it. Um, but the point that I was trying to make is I love the things that are based in reality, based in truth, even if it's just a small truth.
I cannot believe it how many of these there actually are. It looks like they came out with one a year. We're going to bring a
It's
little S
insane.
flicks up for you guys here. The Blackwell Ghost 5, 3, 2, 4. I mean, look at this. 17, 20, 20, 2019, 18, 20, 22, 22, 24. These two came out the same year. This is insanity. I was gonna add it to my queue, but I have a hard time just adding one, and I'd feel like I have to add them all anyway. And I
Yeah.
don't have the capacity to add 9 movies to watch
I
over the
I
next
can't vouch
15
for
weeks.
anything other than the first one, so don't go off my
Interesting.
recommendation.
I may check it out. We'll see. Your endorsement wasn't that ringing when you said you turned it off after you figured out that it wasn't actually real.
Well, because I was aggravated. Because I thought I was watching like a true, real documentary.
Yeah.
Once I realized I wasn't, I was like, God damn it. And I just turned it off.
You know, that's something that's kind of, I think, been the crutch of like my favorite horror movies. Maybe not my favorite horror movies of all time, because that's an easy Freddy Krueger for me. But I think some of the horror movies that have scared me the most throughout history have been ones that are based on a true story. And my mind immediately goes to The Exorcist. And I remember watching that as a kid. I probably tried to watch it 12 times before I actually watched the whole movie. But I'll never forget, it comes up, we're at my grandmother's beach house, and right up on the screen, all of us cousins were there. And our parents knew they were going to scare the bejesus off of us that night. The first thing that comes up is like based on true events or based on a true story, whatever that opening title was. And it was just like, I distinctly remember the chills that ran up my arms at that point, like right down my spine. Like, wait a minute, like this really happened. This is at a time too where like I don't have the concept yet that like there's still some Hollywood embellishment within that. But even to this day, and like surfacing back to the story, yes, there's absolutely some embellishment in some of it, but a large portion of that story was really real and happened to some degree within that. you and I talked the other day about Ed and Ed and Lorraine Warren and their series of stories, and how the Conjuring movies were all based on true events. And of course, again, Hollywood's put their spin on it. That's what makes this a multi-million dollar franchise, maybe even bigger than that, right?
Well, also Ed and Lorraine have kind of put their spin on it as well. Let's not forget about
Of
that.
course.
In fact, we did a whole episode about that.
That's true. Actually, go back and check that out. It's Halloween time, so we'll probably boost that episode so you guys can check that out. You should see it a little higher up on your feeds than normal. But really fun episode when we dove into a little bit of their backstories. But one of the things that Tim and I talked about that I think might interest all of you is we sort of wish that it's probably going to be like a decade from now, but somebody comes out and redoes the Conjuring stuff, does it like as a docuseries though, and sort of recreates a lot of these stories that Ed and Lorraine had with practical effects as close to their original story as possible, without the Hollywood spin, the demonic faces that are like really creepy and like jump out at you. Because I think there's fear. I think there's horror. I think there's way more suspense, I guess, when there's less over the top and when there's subtlety to it, right? Because then it feels real. It's the superhero movie hype. Like, why is Iron Man? Why did that hit so well with people? Because it felt real. It felt like it could really happen. And that's what I feel like you can do when a movie like what was the ghost one we just talked about the other night again too? Paranormal Activity. That comes out, it blows the world. Blair Witch, that comes out because it felt so real. It didn't go over the top with special effects, didn't do anything crazy. It just felt like it could really be real. It could really happen. And then it sets the light bulb off in people's heads who have had similar experiences to say, hey, wait a minute. Like, I've had this experience too. And here's my story.
Yeah. To your point, there is a fantastic documentary. It's on Netflix. It's called The Devil on Trial. That is...
I think I've heard of that. Okay.
Yes. We might have... we've done so many of these. We might have talked about it on here before. But that is the documentary of the true story behind the Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It movie. So they've already done it once.
Okay,
and to your point, dude, like... if somebody went and made documentaries about all of those movies, my God, I would watch every single one of them nonstop on repeat. Love that.
It'd be so much fun.
In fact, I've watched that documentary on Netflix like 3 or 4 times. Again, because I just... I love horror, I love paranormal, but when I want to learn something. I want to learn something about a true event that happened. And so when I have the option to watch something that is complete fiction, or I have the option to watch something that's at least based in truth, I'm going to choose something that's based in truth every single time, and I'm going to watch it more than once as opposed to watching something that's complete fiction. I want to learn. I love exactly. I love it. Just the thought that some of these people, even if some of the documentaries are a little embellished, which I'm sure that they are to a degree.
100%.
Even if they are a bit. I mean, look, I've had some weird experiences, right? I know you've had some strange experiences as well. And just to think that even if they truly experienced a microcosm of what's being shown on this documentary, what's on this film, my God, man, that scares the hell out of me. You know? Like, to me, that's truly haunting.
Well, so we were talking the other day about the Conjuring house. Now you can go and rent it and stay there for a night, like an Airbnb type
Who
thing.
bought it? Somebody bought it.
Matt Rife?
The comedian? Matt Rife.
Matt Rife? Yeah, the comedian, yes.
Yeah.
So he bought it and you can go stay there now. And it's fascinating to me because these are houses, the series of all the Conjuring things, but this is a house that's obviously been plagued by haunted spirits. Crazy stuff has gone on there. And now people are willingly going to go in there. And my youngest brother, who's big horror buff and always looking for adventure, is like really calling for it. And then my other younger brother, he's in for anything like that. So he's on board. And then you are on board. I'm not doing that. Like they're like, oh, you should make a brother show. Well, Tim subbing in as me as that brother. I'm not like, listen, I'm into that stuff. I think that stuff's really cool. It'd make for a great episode, but like, I'm not going to stir that pot. Because even if there's a semblance of truth to anything that happened in that house, I'm not taking that thing home with me.
That's what I was just going to ask you.
I'm not dealing with that demon. No way.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Are you more concerned about having a negative or a frightening experience in the home? Or are you worried about bringing something with you?
I'm worried about bringing it with me. I'm worried
That's
100%.
valid.
I think back, there was another documentary that just came out recently. We're going to be hitting on documentary words a lot tonight. The Unbinding. I think it came out a couple years ago, actually now. And it was that one was interesting because it hit close to home for
Yes.
us in the Catskills. Basically, the long and short of it is some hikers found this relic. They brought it home. A bunch of crazy stuff starts happening. They end up giving it to a guy that's serving as like the modern day Ed and Lorraine Warren. And he takes it to some shows. More crazy stuff happens. And they bring it back. Fun to watch, really spooky. You don't see a lot of actual footage of anything happening there, but there's a couple cool scenes in there. But like something like that, it makes it all feel real. And even if it's faked, the idea, as you said, that it could happen, all of a sudden changes my mindset a little bit. Like maybe it is fake, and in all likelihood it is. But if there's that modicum of truth that it is real, it's not like that Facebook post that you retweet and you think you're going to win $1 million or something because Mark Zuckerberg is going to pick somebody out of a random hat by sharing that and posting some ridiculous text. No, if this is real, I'm not just looking like an idiot on Facebook. I'm bringing this thing down to my house and potentially causing myself a lifetime of hellfire and brimstone. And that, my friend, I'm not in for.
Look, I don't disagree. I'll tell you what, when I was a teenager, call it between 14 and 16, me and a large group of my friends, I grew up in Staten Island, there's this mansion on the South Shore of Staten Island called, it's called the Kreischer Mansion, whatever, pronunciation's not important. And there's a whole backstory. God, it's been forever since I've even thought about this. Obviously, a wealthy individual built a very large home. If I'm remembering the backstory correctly, he built an additional home for his son and daughter-in-law, and something. There was a fire, and there was a death somewhere on the property. Right? I know it's very vague. It's all I remember. I'm almost 40 now. This is a long time ago. Point being, I remember we went in to like investigate this, and one of my friends picked something up. And it was like a restaurant at one time, and so this mansion is, it had been used, for various different things. The B-52s actually performed there in like the late 90s, and it was like on MTV. Anyway, point being, one of my friends picked up an item and was like bringing it outside with him, and I was like, no, dude, what are you doing? You don't ever bring any item from any haunted place with you. Put it back where you got it. Leave it there. Do not bring it outside. So, I'm sorry, this is probably very loud for anybody who is laying in bed and falling asleep listening to us. I just woke you up. But I don't disagree, is my point. I get where you're coming from. I think you'd probably be okay as long as you didn't take an artifact with you. But yeah, dude, I would love to go to that house. I would love to go to that house. I want to go on a real ghost hunt. I'm dying to go on a real, true ghost hunt. Would love to do that.
This is our call to action because we've been trying to tweet at you, message you. I thought it might be easier to get some of the local ghost hunters from our area. We're in Jersey here to come on the show and talk about it. We're not trying to do like a gotcha show. We're just genuinely interested in it. So here's that call out. If you are out there, you're a ghost hunter, you've went on a ghost hunting expedition, join us. Come on a show. It doesn't have to be around Halloween time. We're interested in this stuff year round. Want to hear the experience. Want to hear why you got into it, what you did, what you experienced. And Mr. Phillips is on board to go. That I would probably go on because I feel like when you're talking about ghosts, they're usually relegated to the area they're haunting. When you're talking about demons and spirits, I feel like there's a latching effect that could potentially screw you up a little bit.
But here's the thing. How do you know what's haunting that area? Is it a ghost? Is it a non-human entity? Is it a demon? You don't know. How do you know?
I mean, I guess presumably you roll the dice on what the historical record is showing on the hauntings. Are people coming there and just hearing some knocks and noises, or people going in there and getting thrown against walls? Like when the violent stuff happens, I'm probably not going anywhere near that place ever. Well, you and my brothers can go. Just bring cameras, and that'll be an episode of Cocktails and Conspiracies. I don't want you just bringing like a handheld. I want you to get we'll get like the glasses camera, so when you get whipped against the wall, you can get the whole effect. Like, woo! We'll do a lot of editing on that one. That's what I want to see.
Have you seen? So, completely unrelated. There's like this new popular surge of AI videos online of like chiropractor videos. Have you seen these?
No.
Dude, they're the greatest thing you'll ever see in your life. It's like a chiropractor, and it's always an old person, generally an old woman. And they're like, okay, this is gonna like realign your neck. And like the old person's laying there, like, you know, on the chiropractor table, and they're like, oh, I really hope this works. And then they just take them by their head and they whip them through a wall. It's the funniest thing you'll ever see in your life. You gotta check it out. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I just thought of it. Oh, AI is wonderful.
It's
But
certainly
seriously,
something.
if anybody is watching, listening, I don't care if this is 3 months from now. If you do ghost hunting anywhere in New Jersey, I'll even go to like the eastern part of Pennsylvania. I not only do we want you to come on, I want to talk to you. To Shane's point, it will never be a guy. I fully believe in the paranormal, right? This is absolutely not a gotcha type of interview at all. But not only do we want you on the show, I want to go with you. I desperately want to go ghost hunting. Desperately want to. I have wanted to from the first time I ever saw the episode Ghost Hunters, which was, I feel like at this point, had to be 20 years ago. That I still rewatch. I swear to God.
You've been
Once
talking
we're
about it this
done,
whole time.
dude, when we're done, I'm gonna go watch the Ghost Hunters. Like, immediately, that's what I'm gonna do. I just love the show that much. Hit us up. I want to go
Mr.
with you.
Phillips movie. So,
Oh, I love it.
talking about artifacts here, haunted artifacts. What do you think? And I guess this could really apply to anything. Haunted artifacts, possessions, ghosts, the demons, the blanket of all these stories. You're really well researched. I don't want to get into your stories just yet. I want to hold those off. Everything we've seen out there in the media that's been publicized, what do you think it is? Like, do you think there's validity to a lot of this stuff? Do you think there's, I don't know what the word would be, like the opposite of placebo effect, right? Like, I find this ancient, I forgot what they kept calling it in the Unbinding, but like that relic that they found. I find this ancient relic. It looks really creepy. I just happened to get sick that day because I was on a long hike, and now I think this thing's going crazy. And once like something happens that's weird, are you like manifesting this in your mind, and are you making this stuff up and perpetuating it and likening everything to it? Or do you think there's really something to it? Like, where do you fall in a lot of that stuff? Obviously not having experienced those specific things directly,
Right.
but knowing enough stories where, is there a modicum of truth? Is it all BS across the board?
So I
Is it
think there's
somewhere
kind
in
of
between?
three. I think there's three ways to look at it, right? So let's start with energy, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of people believe that an entity, whether it be human, non-human, is energy. When I say non-human, I'm talking
Yeah.
about some kind of a demon, right?
Right.
For lack of a better term.
Sure.
Many folks within this space, right, refer to it as an energy, okay? And so if an energy can haunt a specific space, why can't an energy attach itself to an inanimate object and then manifest itself from that inanimate object wherever it happens to be, right? So that's number one. There's the whole kind of energy hypothesis, and I'm very much so kind of like slimming this down in like its most basic raw terms. Then there is demons, right? So what's a demon, right? Well, a demon would be a dark, demonic, evil-doing entity, essentially from the depths of hell, okay? Created from the spawn of Satan, if you will. They're kind of omnipresent, right? They if you believe in that from a spiritual, from a religious perspective, they have special powers, right, that can kind of really do whatever they want for the most part. And so if you believe in that avenue, well then why couldn't a demon haunt my earbud case, right? It could literally do whatever it wants. If it could possess me, why can't it possess this? And then essentially possess me through this. And then granted, I know I'm being very silly showing my earbud case, but I'm just kind of making a point, right? And then there's the third, which is kind of just mental illness and crazy people. And I think that's kind of part of it too. And granted, that can be said for any topic that we discuss on the show. We're a
Yeah,
conspiracy
yeah.
show, and we've talked to some people.
There's a lot
Listen,
of gray lines here.
we have finished some episodes where we've had some guests, and you and I have gotten off and looked at each other and went, well, what the hell was that, right? So,
Yeah.
some people are nuts, right? You know, some people genuinely do suffer from mental illness, right? Whether it be schizophrenia or whatever it might be. And so I think you have to look at each case as an individual, and I kind of put them into one of those three categories. I guess in a nutshell, do I think that it could be true? Do I think that a spirit or an entity could haunt or possess an item? Maybe. Maybe. I think I would lean more towards yes than no.
Interesting.
What about you? What do you got for me on that realm?
I don't know. I don't know. I've thought about this a lot, and I've thought about this hard, and I think there's plausibility in ancient items, old items, right? Less so than modern type stuff. And I think there's a reason for that too. Everything in the past, like when you look at all the things that are haunted, look through Ed and Lorraine's their collection, right? Everything is super old. Generally, most of those items are made by wood. And I think that there's a time and a place where there was like concerted effort put into craftsmanship, right? And use real raw materials. These are organic materials that were once living, and they had a life force or an energy in them themselves. And so I think that if there is a supernatural energy that gets absorbed into an item, I think the likelihood of it being another organic item that it's getting absorbed into, like a tree, for example, whether that's a carved relic, whether that's a piece of furniture, like a mirror. It's not the mirror, it's not the glass itself, it's the frame of it
Sure.
that's getting into. I think that makes a lot more sense to me. There's I don't want to say scientific evidence for that, but there's reason, right? Like that tree was alive and it absorbs energy. And there's, plenty of scientific theories that energy is not created nor destroyed, it's just transferred, right? So the idea that this energy from a human is now transferred into this object that was once alive, and it just sort of rests there in a different state from a very conspiracy realist standpoint. There you go, pun intended there. I think that makes sense to me. I don't necessarily buy into most of what people think are haunting them. I think a lot of times, I do think it's just them, right? Like I think there's a trauma that's involved, and it's almost like a Munchausen by proxy, right? Where they're manufacturing these ideas around their situation to, I don't know if it's garner pity or to justify ill will that's happening around them, to come up with a reason for why they may not feel in great shape, something else. I don't know. I'm very split. And it's one of those things where I want to believe, but I'm not always sure that I do. And it's another one of those areas where it's really hard to prove.
Yeah. So by that account, right, that you're kind of describing a poltergeist, right?
Okay,
Or
sure.
A poltergeist affects one specific human being, right? Like you might have a haunting. Let's just say my house is haunted. This one's not. I wish it was. It'd be a lot cooler if it was.
Well, no, you don't. Well, did you say that? Like, I want to get your personal stories later. Actually, hold that. I'm gonna hold that thought. We might even split that off into its own little segment here. Personal
Well,
stories.
listen, we're just gonna talk and see where the night takes us here. I got a fresh drink. I'm ready to go. Ready to go. I don't know why I said it like that. What was I talking about? Poltergeist.
The poltergeist. Yeah.
Right. So the poltergeist theory.
Dude, hold on. Time out. You just said poltergeist, and I've got our X feed up because we're live streaming on X and YouTube tonight. And Jimmy Church is currently talking about what is a poltergeist on his live show right now. So the universe speaking right now, and he's got a guest on here. He's at episode 2230. We're only at episode 174. We're not close yet, but it's the irony of that. So maybe there is a poltergeist. Maybe there is. A universe is speaking to us here. But go ahead, go finish.
Maybe there is. Well, no, but basically what I was going to say was, a poltergeist is really an entity that is attached to one specific human being, and that human being is creating or feeding that entity, and giving them the energy that they need to manifest and to do things, right? But if you look at it from a scientific perspective, a lot of folks look at poltergeist type hauntings as exactly what you just described. Somebody who maybe not even necessarily wants it to happen. It's not like somebody is sitting down and saying, hey, I'm going to manufacture this story. I'm going to go and tell people that all these things are happening to me, even though they're not. I'm going to make it up. I'm not even necessarily saying that that's their intention. But there's, to your point, there's some underlying, whether it be trauma or possibly even psychological condition that's causing them to believe that those things are happening to them, and that's why these things only happen when that person is around, right? Like, that's perfectly describing a poltergeist type haunting, which to me is the most kind of like, well, I don't know, is this really going on? Like, that's the shakiest kind of haunting when I kind of look at all of them, if you will.
Yeah.
You know?
How do you feel about like exorcists or exorcisms or possessions? I guess is really
I love them. The possession movies are my. I know we're not talking about movies, but like,
well, we kind of are. Like, this episode is morphed into this at this point.
I'm watching it.
I think the idea of possessions are what haunts me the most, because in a lot of the stories that come out about them, the person being possessed starts doing things that are uncharacteristic of them, whether it's speaking another language that they clearly do not know, that the inflection in their voice, almost like doubling their voice, where there's a secondary voice kind of shining through, physical abrasions that just are very hard to do to yourself, or just seem to kind of come out of nowhere. Like, that's, if there's one thing that I think I'm most mortified of, I think it's possessions, because I think there's a lot to that your body's in this weakened state, right? Sick, dying, whatever. You become very vulnerable. And if you want to subscribe to the idea that there are evil spirits out there that are trying to manifest themselves into this world, what are they going to go towards? They're going to go to somebody that's sick and that's vulnerable and that's easy to take over. We see that in other ways of life too, right? You look at cults, right? And who do they prey on? You look at some of these like extremist groups, and who do they prey on? It's people that are emotionally unstable. It's across the board. I mean, literally name anything. People get scammed all the time by things because they're emotionally or physically vulnerable. And so the idea of something kind of taking form and taking over somebody's body because they just can't fight it, they just don't have the will, seems really obvious to me, right? It doesn't seem far-fetched at all. I may be very skewed because, again, The Exorcist is my favorite movie, but all those other movies. But I've went down deep dives watching real exorcisms online. There's some crazy, there's a lot of BS out there, but there's some crazy ones out there where they're just, you gotta wonder, where is that all coming from? I just, the mind is powerful, right? And I realize that we only know a small portion of it. But when I look at stories like that, and spinning off the horror perspective too, I think of like a James Leininger was having those oh God, can't think of the word, the R word. Reincarnation stories, and he's labeling off planes from World War II and picking people out of it. Like, I'm relating those two because you just don't come up with that out of thin air, right? You just don't learn a new language out of thin air. You just don't have these communications out of thin air. And when I see all of those things and I put them together, that's what makes me believe that could be plausible. Could it be a show? Sure, of course. But when you see some of the older footage and stuff where it's less likely, today it's hard. Even extracting the AI and the CGI stuff and getting rid of that. Today, everything you see on the internet, you've got to question, is this real or are they trying to go viral? Virility wasn't a thing back before the internet. Nobody was just recording stuff to go viral. Of course, people were making up stories to get in the newspaper and stuff like that. But like when you have video footage of things on like, an old camcorder, like it's not like they were going home and uploading that to YouTube, which you've already liked and subscribed to our channel. So, but it's not like they were going to do that. I think there's a level of truth, more truth in those stories than there would be today, where everybody's just looking to get that next hook.
Yeah. Look, I agree, and if you look at something like, do you know the story of the Enfield haunting, the Enfield poltergeist? You familiar with that?
I'm familiar with it. Yes, I
That's
don't remember
what-
which one that is offhand, but I'm familiar with the name. Yeah.
So that's the story that the second Conjuring movie was based on. It's the
Okay.
girls.
Yep. There's
in
a
Britain.
separate movie about that too, though. The Enfield Poltergeist.
There
Completely
is.
separate one.
There's
Yes.
there's a series about it as well. I think it's called the Enfield Haunting. I think it's on Apple. I don't subscribe to Apple, so I haven't seen it.
Check it
Point
out.
being, it's a young girl, and a lot of the video footage, and anybody right
This
now.
guy
could-
just
could
called this
go-
thing right out. The Enfield Haunting, 3 episodes. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, baby.
Go ahead.
Anybody could go, check out, true video footage of recordings of this girl. I don't remember her name. I don't remember how old she is, but she's a younger girl, and just the voice in which she speaks in when she is quote unquote possessed. I mean, could you do that on purpose to make it seem like you're possessed? Yeah, sure. Like nothing's impossible.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I have young daughters. To consistently speak in a voice like that over and over
That's
and
what I mean.
over again for hours on camera, my girls couldn't do it. Granted,
very
I don't see either one of them being actresses, but I don't know, man. That's got to be really tough to do. Like that would kill my throat.
Your vocal cords.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for you to do that pre-puberty as a guy, let alone as a girl. I mean, that's
Right.
always the joke, right? It's like boy bands never hit puberty because they can't deepen their voice. And the ones that did when you were back in school, those are the guys that ended up being the I don't know, sopranos and chorus or whatever. Alto and soprano, right? Soprano was the lower one
One
because
of
they
them,
just
I
happen to have a deeper voice. You couldn't deepen your voice when you're that young,
Right.
especially female. It's just a different anatomy there. But
I agree.
anyway, there's so
also-
many interesting things about that. Yeah, go ahead. What else you
Man,
have?
I stepped on your toes. I see. We try, and sometimes I step, you step, we all step together.
okay.
Anyway,
We don't have
continue with what I was gonna
cues
say.
here. Everyone knows
don't.
out there. We don't have cue cards and everything.
cues.
So we just sort of talk.
It's us.
And
This
we
is
just
it.
try to keep the flow moving. We try to keep it going.
What you see is what you're getting, baby. I'm over here, you're over there. You got a drink, I got a drink. We got cocktails, we got conspiracies. We're talking, baby. This is it.
We're talking. That's solid.
So what I was gonna say, and we've talked about this related theory a lot, and it's that antiquity, right? There were stories of possessions in antiquity. This has gone on literally for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Thousands of years.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that surrounds possessions that really kind of gets me too, is that this isn't a new phenomena. This has been going on forever. I mean, there are literally documented stories in biblical texts that talk about possessions. This isn't something that Hollywood necessarily made up. This is in the history books, and I'm a history buff. I love things that are documented in truth, and to me, I look at things like that. People had to work really hard back in the day. They had to work really hard to survive. They had to make everything that they had. They didn't have a lot of time to just sit there and make things up. And if you did, why would it necessarily be just about possessions, and why would it be all over the world? Every culture,
Right.
you could look at
Right.
at ancient texts, and you'll find stories about exorcisms and possessions. So
That's the
I
key.
think that they have to be rooted in some sort of truth.
I think you nailed it with that. And we come back to this point so often on this show is when there's coincidence across culture, is it really coincidence? Whether that's aliens, whether that's ghosts, whether that's that 10 to 15,000 years ago where this flood struck the earth, there's always the same story wherever you go. And you have to start to ask yourself how much realism is in it. Mr. Phillips, I don't know. There's so much about this, and it's like it's one of those topics too where there's a large part of me that wants to know it's true and almost wants to experience it. Like you said, the ghost hunting thing would be really cool to experience it and have that face to face. But there's still a part of me too that's reluctant to do that. Again, I don't want to take anything home, so that's the biggest fear I have, is like grabbing the wrong spirit and bringing that home with me. But does that materially change your life once you've experienced something like that in detail. And I don't think anybody can answer that until you actually encounter it, what that encounter might be. And we're going to get there, but I don't know. I don't know if that's, sometimes it's like, is it worth it? Right? Like, ignorance can sometimes be bliss. You can live happy, you can live joyously, you can go about your life just not knowing the crazy stuff that's going on there, and just die satisfied, or something can hit you and like you don't know how it might change you as a person and potentially ruin your outlook. Does that thought ever kind of cross your mind?
Yeah. And I would love to experience it. Whether it, I don't know. I don't foresee it changing my life in a negative way. Maybe I'm just being optimistic in that
Sure.
thought. But I would love, and I've had some weird experiences, and we'll talk about them. But I've never had an experience where I can say, "Hey, I know for sure that the paranormal is real," and I would love nothing more. I would love nothing more than to have an experience like that. Oh God,
Well,
I would love it.
we will talk about your experiences, but that will not be until next week's episode, ladies and gentlemen. For tonight, I want you to leave a comment below. Let us know your favorite horror movie, horror documentary, horror story. And what do you think? Is this real, or is it all just made up baloney? And baloney is not the word I want to use, but our friends at YouTube only want me to use those kind of words. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to refill my drink because there's another episode of Cocktails and Conspiracies, and I'm almost done. Stay spooky and happy Halloween.
Is your website still stuck in 2009, or worse, built by your cousin's friend who kind of knows WordPress?
No! God, please, no!
It's time for an upgrade. At sfx.com, we specialize in custom web design, SEO, and full-service IT solutions tailored for small businesses that are ready to scale. Whether you're just starting out or reinventing your brand, the team at sfx.com brings strategy, style, and serious tech skills to every project. Visit s-fx.com today, where small businesses get big solutions.
Visit s-fx.com.